Hello and welcome to Lisa Ann Can. I'm Lisa Ann. Today I am going to be making some almond-pecan shortbread cookies. This is a little low-carb snack cookie that I like to have as a treat at coffee time. So I thought I would just show you how I make that today. So I've got my ingredients here. I use the Bob's Red Mill Superfine almond flour, some vanilla, a stick of butter that is room temperature. You can either use brown sugar or stevia, some type of artificial sweetener, whichever you choose. And I also have here about 2 tablespoons of very finely chopped pecans. Pretty simple ingredients. The oven is preheating to 325, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. You begin with 1.25 cups of superfine almond flour. And I'm not a real precise measure. I mean, for some things I am, but not for this. So about 1.25 cups. So I'm going to take a whole stick of butter and cut it up probably into about tablespoon size pieces. Next, I'm going to take my pastry knife and just crumble the butter in the flour. Also thought that I'd talk to you today about the low carb diet and how it's been going or not going. I should call it Lisa Ann Can't. I was having a really hard time there for a while, but I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. I'm kind of like a sugaraholic, so once you start tasting a little bit of sugar, then seems like it pushes you overboard or fall off the wagon or whatever they say, and I go a little crazy. I was also making a lot of homemade bread. Still am, but I've eaten so much of it now, I feel like, okay, I'm done, and I was ready to get back on the low carb. So when these are baking, I'll give you a weight update, tell you what's been happening and what my new goals are, what I'm going to try to aim for here in early 2022. And by the way, I have adapted this recipe from just a regular shortbread cookie recipe in my Better Homes and Gardens cookbook. I just replaced the white flour with the almond flour and made a few adjustments then. And I've made this many times, so it does work. So as I was saying when I was showing you the ingredients, you have a choice. You can put 1 packet of stevia into the cookie mix, which is great, or you can use a tablespoon of brown sugar. So this is going to add about 14 more grams of carbs for the whole batch of cookies. So it's going to raise the grams of carbs in each cookie, maybe 1 gram. So we're talking about going from 2.5 maybe to 3.5 grams of carbs per cookie. So if that's a big deal, you know, I don't mind using artificial sweeteners or stevia, which is natural, but it's still highly processed. I don't, okay, go for it if that's what you want to do. Or this is just a little bit of sugar that goes a long way. It has a natural and familiar taste. So today I'm going for the brown sugar. 1 tablespoon. I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle in the pecans and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm just going to continue to work this stuff in and probably get my hands involved just to make sure it's very well mixed. So you see it actually makes a dough instead of a batter. that you can roll into a ball if you want to. And one of the ways that you can bake this is put it on a cookie sheet, flatten it, do the traditional round, and cut it into wedges, 8 or 16, and that way you can portion it out and calculate the amount of carbs that's in each cookie. I have found that I rather like to use my portion scoop and just do individual cookies, so that's what I'm going to do next. So I've got my portion scoop, and I have a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper. You don't have to worry about spacing them out because they're not going to spread and touch each other. They're almost going to hold their shape during baking. Okay, so it made exactly 10 with just a little left over. Perfect time to taste the dough. Yum, yum. Okay, so there they are, 10 little low-carb almond shortbread cookies. I'm going to pop those in a 325 oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. So while it's baking, we'll chit-chat. Alrighty, while those cookies are baking, I thought I would chit-chat about my dieting failure. I keep a Post-it note on my mirror in my bathroom, and my modus operandi has been always away on a Wednesday and write it down, because you know that number, it keeps it right there in my face, and it's a little bit of a motivation. And you know, those things don't work. You just kind of turn a blind eye to them when you decide, okay, I can't do this right now. But anyway, I made my first video mid-October. I started, you know, trying to focus on dieting again in mid-October. I made my video and posted it. And when I started my diet, I was at 157 pounds. So I was ready, you know, to make a commitment to low carb and to exercise. And I actually did pretty good for a month. A month later, I was down 7 pounds to 150, which that was great. And that was pretty fast weight loss, of course, you know, because usually a lot of it is water at first. But then Thanksgiving rolled around, and we always, you know, you want to feast, and then Christmas right after it. So from between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I kind of wavered. I did pretty good. I tried to stay, you know, low sugar, small portions, low carbish, continue to do my exercises. And I, you know, put on a few more pounds, and I wavered anywhere between 152 to 154. Okay, so that was all right. But when I stepped on the scale in January, I was back up to 157, where I was in October. That was really discouraging. And I had started making that delicious sourdough bread. And I'm like, what the heck? I mean, I'm an old lady. How much do I care about this? So I just said, I'm going to eat the sourdough bread. I'm going to eat fruit and all the wonderful things. I'm going to drink milk and eat ice cream, the things that I deprived myself of, you know, for months and months on end. And so I went a little crazy, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I really did. But I stepped on the scale, when was that? About a week or so ago, and I was up to 163. The heaviest I've ever been is 165, and I've been there several times. That's where my body, when I eat, you know, like the way I want to eat, that's where I go. I go to 165. But I began to have a lot of joint pain, and I don't know if it's the sugar or the weight, probably both, because the sugar causes the weight, but I think the sugar causes inflammation too and causes my joints to hurt really bad. So I'm like, okay, I gotta rein this in so that I can, you know, not be miserable. So I am going back on low carb, but I'm not gonna do induction. Those of you who understand Atkins and induction is 20 grams of carbs a day for at least 2 weeks to kickstart you into ketosis. So I just decided I knew I couldn't deprive myself that much. But I did. I said for about a week, I said, all right, I'm going to write down what I eat, see how many carbs I'm actually consuming and how many calories. So while I was trying to, be reasonable in diet and rather low carb, I'd be between 25 and 35 grams of carbs. That's not bad. My calorie level would be between 17 and 1800 grams, 1800 calories. So that is too much for a 55-year-old lady. I read some recommendations that said I shouldn't be eating any more than 1,600 calories a day, in order to maintain. You can go up to 1,800 if you're very active. So I'm like, I'm active, but I'm not very active. So I thought, well, I don't really know what to do. So I'm not going to weigh for a month. I'm going to keep my carbs between 20 and 30-ish. I'm going to avoid, sweets and sugary treats and milk and ice cream and cake and all that stuff completely and entirely. No sourdough bread. If I do decide I've got to have a piece of sourdough bread, I'm going to cut me a square, toast it, write the calories down, and then offset that by reducing my calories, in another way that day. I am going to attempt to keep my calories down around 1,500 to 1,600 a day. We'll see how this goes. Decided I couldn't mentally weigh every week because I'm watching that scale and it's not moving, and that's just not where I want to live. So my plan is I'm going to eat on schedule, eat breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, and even I have a little bed night snack if I'm hungry, because if I go to bed hungry, I will not fall asleep. So I've got a little snack that I like to do before bedtime, and that is a 1/4 cup of plain yogurt, the Greek kind, and a tablespoon of pistachios, because they're supposed to have something in it to help with sleep. So that's what I'm doing. My weight loss goal is I just would like to get back down to, okay, let's say I'm 163 now. Reasonable to lose maybe 4 or 5 pounds by next month. So that's going to put me under, 159. That would be nice to get back down in the 150 range. And then I'll see how it goes. I would like to get down below, 149, get under that 150 mark. So, but I mean, I'm older, a little chubbier. That's all right. I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay with, my middle. And by the way, I measured my waist when I started doing, not when I started this diet, but when I was down around 150 pounds and my waist was 33 inches. So I measured it the other day and it was 37. I put on 4 inches of nothing but fat right in my middle from eating carbohydrates in a very short time. So that's dangerous. That's not good. So I guess one of my goals is going to be to get that measurement back down to 33, maybe in the next month to 2 months. So anyway, that's my plan. So I had shared in a couple of the previous videos the Lucy Wyndham Reed 7-minute exercises. So I just subscribed to her and she puts out lots of videos, but I found another one that I really liked and I'm going to link it in the description below. It is a total body toning in 9 minutes, and that's been really good. I can almost say that I faithfully do that every morning, except for Sunday morning. I'll do the total body toning for 9 minutes. That gets me nice and out of breath, and it's doing some muscle exercises. And then in the afternoon, I have found a fitness walking program, which a friend of mine shared with me. She shared with me the 1 mile happy walk, and that was a great start. It's Leslie Sansone or Sansoni, not sure what her name, how you pronounce it, but I subscribe to her. She does She does a 1 mile walk, a 2 mile walk, a 3 mile walk, in which I think the 3.1 is actually a 5K. So she also adds some walks that have fitness bands, so you're doing arm muscle exercises while you're walking. That has been fun, and I've really enjoyed it. So in the afternoon, like today, I'll probably do maybe a 3 mile because it's been a while since I've done that. I try to do 3, and then the next day do 2, and the next day do 1, and then take a break, and then go 1, 2, 3, take a break, and then down, just like that, and keep rotating those. That gets me really out of breath. So, I mean, I've been faithfully exercising. The exercise is not what's making me gain the weight, it's the carbohydrate. So I'm going to try to be really faithful about those. So my cookies have got about 5 minutes on them, so I'll check back with you, show you what those look like when they're done, and share a Bible verse with you. I'm going to go ahead and share the Bible verse now because it's just a quick one. Exercise made me think about it. It's in Timothy. Everybody's probably familiar with it. It's about bodily exercise. All right, took me a little bit to find it. 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 8. It says, "For bodily exercise profiteth little, but godliness is profitable unto all things, having promise of the life that now is, and of that which is to come." So people like to use this verse when talking about exercise, and they say, see, exercising your body does profit you a little. And I do agree with that. Exercising your body may keep you healthy so that you can be strong and fit to do the work of the ministry. My ministry is wife and mother and keeper of this home, and it takes some physical strength to do that. But in this passage, it is not talking about exercising your body. In this passage, it tells you in context what it's talking about. It talks about abstaining from meat and forbidding to marry. So the marriage has to do with being intimate. So if you deprive yourself of that, taking vows of celibacy, so to speak, and you only eat fish on Friday and you don't eat red meat on certain days, that's what he's talking about. That's exercising your body when you refuse certain meats and, discipline yourself or deprive yourself. He says that profits you very little. What is profitable to us now and for eternity is godliness. And godliness is Christ in us. When we trust in Christ and we're saved from the penalty of our sins, and then we can be built up in the Word of God and grow in our inner man. That's what godliness is. And that reminds me of another verse in Corinthians. It'll take me a minute to find it. Has to do with what is eternal and what is temporal. Oh, here it is. All right, it's 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and Paul is talking about affliction and, doing without and being persecuted for the ministry and things like that, which he calls in verse 17 our light affliction. He says, "It is but for a moment, and it worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory." A friend of mine, Sarah Johnson, Dustin Johnson, they posted a little blog this week, how God does care about your weight. And this is the weight he's talking about, the eternal weight of glory. Verse 18, "While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal." God is concerned about our spiritual weight and our spiritual fitness. All right, I got 30 seconds left on my timer. I'll BRB. So here they are. They did spread out just a little bit, the ones toward the back of the oven especially, but ooh, they do smell good. I'm going to put them on the cooling rack and let them cool completely. That is a must. Otherwise, they're just going to crumble to bits. So you want them to be absolutely cool, and then put them in a plastic, Ziploc bag or a Tupperware container with a lid, and they will keep for a long time. They do have a lot of butter in them. So usually I'm going to be eating one a day, so 10 days. They'll keep 10 days, but sometimes my children like to sneak one. So anyway, all right, I hope you'll try these almond shortbread cookies. I'll put a link in the description below, and I'll look forward to seeing you in an upcoming video.